Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. The jet stream here early on Friday morning, we're watching a major trough swing through the northern plains, eventually through the Great Lakes, bringing a shot of some cooler air, also bringing some showers and storms to the region, a little bit of severe weather accompanying this one as it moves through as well. But by the time we get to Monday, we're going to watch that ridge reestablish itself across the midsection of the country, allowing all kinds of heat to really rebuild. Heat and humidity, a very summer-like pattern, resuming across a big chunk of the central U.S., including the Corn Belt. As we look at the next 10 days of temperature anomalies, where you see the red shading, that's where we are warmer than average, and you're seeing a lot of that across the Corn Belt over the next 10 days. The next week and 2 weeks of precipitation, a smattering here. Not a lot to be learned from this one, and we'll talk about why that is. It is going to be a drier week overall. We'll be watching for another storm system to take a similar path to the one we're watching right now across the northern plains into the Great Lakes late next week, but rather quiet in between. The last 72 hours of precipitation, we've seen a frontal boundary kind of stalled across this region with repeated rounds of showers and storms from the Dakotas into the upper Midwest. This was something that was well advertised by our models and something that did come to fruition here with repeated rounds of some severe weather at times. Over the last couple of days, we've seen quite a bit of severe weather across the Corn Belt. A cluster of that across mainly Nebraska, parts of Colorado, and Kansas. For the day on the 11th, that was on Wednesday, all kinds of large hail from some supercells out there. And then for the day Thursday afternoon, a couple supercells producing some damaging wind gusts and a couple of tornadoes across Iowa. That extended all the way into parts of the southern plains. Here is this gorgeous storm system. I know that hurricanes get all the attention with the satellite imagery, but sometimes I can't get enough of looking at these mid-latitude cyclones, these storm systems that track across the United States. Here it is, that counterclockwise flow, that comma shape there in the infrared satellite picture here on the Friday morning picture here. I'm getting just excited about it and kind of stammering over my words. Let's go ahead, let's look underneath those clouds. We've got all kinds of showers and storms to talk about along that front extending back from the Great Lakes into the southern plains. Most widespread across parts of getting into Michigan, northern Illinois, and then eventually northern Indiana. Across central Illinois, isolated in nature, widely isolated. It's kind of funny. Eric Snodgrass and I were talking early this morning at about 4 o'clock, and he's got a downpour. I can hear thunder coming from a storm sitting over his house about 15 miles away. Meanwhile, it's completely dry here. So one of those days across parts of central Illinois, where again, my colleague getting a downpour and some thunder, all I get to do is listen to the thunder off in the distance and then cross my fingers that maybe something else blows up before this front gets out, because it is drier on the back side. This is going to be the best chance for precipitation over the next 5 days or so. We'll go ahead and put that in motion for you here. Taking a look at the frontal picture here is that area of low pressure off near the Minnesota and Canada border, with the front extending off to the south from that. So we look ahead to Saturday evening now. That front will be making its way off across the northeast region. We'll see a quick moving system kind of slide through here Saturday and Sunday, but on the heels of this first front, not a ton of moisture to work with, but we will be watching for some showers and storms across parts of the central Corn Belt here late on the day on Saturday. The next 3 days of severe weather reports or severe weather forecasts as that front makes its way through the eastern Corn Belt here, maybe a couple severe storms across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. As that next system kind of swings through here, maybe a strong storm, probably looking at some large hail, if anything, across parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. And then that same front here, not expecting to produce much in the severe weather categories here on Sunday, maybe an isolated couple of thunderstorms across Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and Indiana on Sunday. Taking a look at the high-resolution NAM model, here is our big storm system. You see it right here on Friday morning. We'll take the drawings off, and we will just kind of play this out over the next couple of days, taking it through the weekend. Again, this is going to be the best chance for more significant precipitation. We're seeing it finally exit, of course, across this region where we've been hammered. That's not a bad thing. We could use a few days to dry out. So let's take this through the day on Friday. We'll watch for those showers and storms kind of reignite along the cold front across parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. That's where we could see a few strong storms. The tornado risk, maybe an isolated tornado across parts of Michigan. That's where the risk would be highest. If you ask me, as you head further south across Illinois or across Indiana and Ohio, dealing with more of a wind damage threat as we look at this squall line making its way through. So again, not expecting a big severe weather outbreak, but across parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, just keep your eyes out as we head through the afternoon and evening. This gets out of here by the time we get to Friday night into Saturday. We'll watch this region now for this next little system on the backside to pop up with a couple isolated storms perhaps as we get into the day on Sunday. Here we go, getting into Saturday night and Sunday, watching for those storms to pop up across perhaps parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, into Missouri. Right now, the model kind of wants to bring some of these into northern Illinois, having them die out Saturday night into Sunday morning. I would have big question marks as we talk about Illinois. I think the chance for some scattered storms is going to be highest across parts of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin for the day on Saturday and Saturday night. Look at the next 2.5 days of precipitation from the high-resolution NAM model once again. You see the first front make its way through here for the day Friday and getting into Friday night. On the backside, maybe watching for some showers and storms to develop on that second system coming through late Saturday into the day on Sunday. But again, trending drier for the next 4 to 5 days until we get to mid to late next week. The NBM, our National Blended Model, taking it all the way through Tuesday at 7 p.m., so the next 5 days. Again, a lot of this coming from this first system that's making its way through. You're not seeing a lot of change there, and that is, again, because it is a drier pattern for the next 4 or 5 days across the Corn Belt. Taking a look at the National Blended Model for the next 10 days, this is what's going to illustrate it. You'll see the first front make its way through, quiet until we get to the end of this loop, which is going to be late next week, watching for another storm system to kind of follow that same path. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Last thing I want to show, this front makes its way through. We see the drier air coming on the backside, but what you'll notice is it does not last long. It doesn't establish itself before on the backside we see that system coming in on the heels, kind of drawing that moisture back in from the Gulf of Mexico. So the front doesn't clear the Gulf of Mexico. We get drier air in here for about 24 to 48 hours before on the backside we're already bringing in that warm and humid summer-like air mass. So again, not a long-term cool down across the Corn Belt. And why is that? Well, we'll take a look at the jet stream. Here is that storm system making its way through the northern plains, through the upper Midwest right now. We'll go ahead and take a look at where we're headed as we go into the next week, and it's a pattern that you'll recognize here, reestablishing itself by the time we get into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week. A trough in the west, a ridge in the east. That allows all kinds of summer-like warmth to reestablish itself across the entire Corn Belt as we head into the next week. Now, your precipitation forecast here from the GFS model. Once again, here is our storm system making its way through the region on Friday. Let's go ahead and take this day by day. We're going in through now Friday into Saturday. This front gets out of here. Sunday, we'll watch for the next storm system to quickly move through on its heels, bringing that chance of showers and storms to parts of the central Corn Belt into the upper Midwest. Here we're into Sunday morning, getting into Monday now. Now we're really drier across the Corn Belt here as we get into early next week. Not going to see any significant storm systems making its way through. We'll watch the northern plains, that same region, as we get into late Tuesday into Wednesday now, watching for another storm system to develop across the northern plains and track from west to east across the region, dragging another front through, but not one that at this point is expected to bring any significant cool down. And so again, we're watching for mid to late next week for that next chance of some showers and storms. Day by day, total accumulated precipitation. Let's go ahead and check in with this one. That'll kind of re-illustrate or drive that point home. This first system makes its way through on Friday. A couple showers and storms possible on Sunday. Here you're seeing that Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin. As we get into the day on Sunday, drier, maybe an isolated shower from Michigan to Illinois, but not going to be seeing any significant widespread precipitation from that, just maybe a few clouds and some light showers making their way through. That system's really going to be kind of moisture starved. So we get into the day on Monday. Tuesday, finally seeing that next storm system reestablish itself or redevelop across the northern plains, kind of a repeat of that Thursday, Friday storm system making its way through here. We get to Wednesday, Thursday, watching a front slowly move through the region. A bit of uncertainty with the exact timing on this one, so certainly Eric Snodgrass will have more details as we get to our Monday morning ag forecast video, but just kind of spelling it out. It is rather dry on the backside of this system making its way through right now. It'll be as we get to mid to late next week before we watch for the next more organized storm system to develop. We'll talk about that in more detail on Monday morning. Temperature anomaly forecast, a lot of red being shown here. You see that cooler air mass come in on the backside of this system over the weekend, but it does not last long. We'll take it back here to Friday morning. Here you see the cooler air coming in on the backside. This is something we've seen a lot over the last couple of months, especially during the late portion of July and August, but they lingered. It stuck around. This doesn't. You see right on the backside, we're already bringing in warmth by the time we get to Sunday, so it's maybe a 24 to 48 hour period where we cool down before that warmth resumes. And then something else I want to show you, now we're getting very warm ahead of that next storm system as we get warm air advection in advance of that approaching storm system mid to late week. As this moves through, though, we see that front sweep through mid to late next week. You're not even seeing a big cool down. It's maybe bringing us back to average before warmth resumes across the midsection of the country, across the Corn Belt. So over the next 7 to 10 days, maybe only a day or two to be found that's going to be cooler than average. Otherwise, looking at warmer than average weather over the next 7 to 10 days. Your high temperatures for the next 5 days, cooler on the back side of this front here for the day on Friday. Highs in the 50s and 60s across the upper Midwest today. For the day on Saturday, here comes the warmth again, resuming across the country. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, a very summer-like pattern across the Corn Belt. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video. I'll be back to check in with the Corn Belt on Tuesday morning. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.